Welcome to Matt Bayersky YouTube channel. Today we're in Bali, Ubud, and the third message that just came in this morning was from a dear friend asking the same question about seeing the invisible, the reality of life, and what is the meaning to life, and all of those deep questions that I very rarely discuss in whole. I only discuss in part because sometimes a subject like that can be so heavy, so dense, so difficult that I don't think it's palatable. However, the third message came in this morning, and normally when I hear three messages all relating to the same thing, I think to myself, well, it might be something that I should get into more. What a beautiful flower, eh? So let's talk about it, shall we? So the question was asked, when you actually started seeing, what did you see? What was the revelations to all of this? What is it all about? First of all, my understanding of the God consciousness, the source, isn't as simple as that. And the reason why I came to this understanding is because of 2 decades of working with clients and working as a healer. So the question is, what is a healer? A healer is somebody that comes out of the mind and starts to feel emotion, energy, and feel certain blocks and issues within the body. And what a healer tries to do, well, I can only speak for myself, is try and interpret or come to an understanding through thousands of clients that sometimes you'll get patterns and you'll feel things that are similar. So I'll give you a great example. I can start work on a client and go to the head of a client and feel a block or a trauma or an issue or dark energy, heavy energy. And I can start working on that energy, and then we go deeper and find out what that energy is, how and why it's causing the effect, which is the headache. And sometimes you can find the cause effect because of certain trauma. You can find that effect because of what the physical body is going through. And you can kind of focus in on certain feelings and then say to your client afterwards, hey, you've got a headache. I felt like you've got a headache. And they'll go, yeah, terrible headache. Yeah, I felt it too. How do you feel now? Feel a lot better. What did you do? And I said, I just connected to that energy and cleared it. And then the client might want to go deeper and say, well, how did it begin? Which is fascinating in itself. The root cause of any energy that's built up in your body is, so we go into detail then. But normally the clients would just go and just be happy that the pain had gone. So that's just an example, Over the years working with clients, you have to be careful because this conversation isn't one for people to listen to. So working over the years, one of the places that you find yourself as a healer is the heart energy, around the heart. And it's not touching the heart, it's not physically putting your hand on the heart, it's just hovering above the heart and feeling that energy. So what did I discover? That's the whole point of this conversation. What did I discover? What did I see that has changed my mind to the understanding of the God consciousness and so on? I found that I was battling with my brain for many years, and I think because I was programmed at the very beginning by a few of my mentors about what the source energy is and consciousness, that there was a niggle all the time. And I tried to talk about it in the way that I always avoided the real truth, because I was still supporting something that was programmed into me by my teachers. And eventually I started disagreeing, and a lot of spiritual community don't like me because of this, because I won't bow down to belief systems. So I ended up being a loner. I ended up just healing people and being a loner. I was at the time very, very busy as a healer. I was doing circle nights. I was traveling all over the world, and doing work, retreats, and helping people one-to-one. I was in hospitals a lot, and so on. I was traveling all over the place. So I would say I was a pretty good healer, in the sense that whatever was happening with each of my clients, there was very positive results. So I was never, somebody who was frightened of my work, or I wasn't somebody who questioned my work. It was like, this works, so get on with it. So I just got on with it. But this niggle continued, and I'd healed thousands of people, and I started seeing a common pattern with many people that I worked with. And I'll give you an example of one. One of the patterns that I saw was when I placed my hand over the head, which I used to do a lot, and then the heart, or the head and the heart, I used to get this, this is familiar. This energy is familiar. What is this energy? It's an energy of you would call it chi, prana, life force, consciousness, soul. And when you feel that energy, it felt different. It didn't feel like Margaret, who I just worked on, or John. It felt different. Sorry. Okay. So it felt different. How did it feel different? It felt different because it didn't feel like it was like John. It felt denser. It felt heavier. It felt, and I don't want to just put it into a category like it was darker, but it felt almost untouchable. Untouchable, unseeable, unfeelable. Sorry guys, sorry, somebody's here. Somebody's coming in all the time now, so not much I can do. Sorry. Nobody comes in here. The past 3 days, nobody's been coming in at all. And I knew as soon as I started talking about this conversation, this would happen. So as I want to get deep into something, it's almost like darkness knows, and this is something that is so relevant that we don't understand. When we're getting close to something, and something is profound that may change the course of the world and cause huge ripple effects, it's almost like darkness stops it. And if darkness wants negativity out there, it will put it on a platform and share it everywhere. So it's almost it's so different from your consciousness that it's easy now for me to feel the difference. So that's one. Then you're probably going to ask, well, who are these people? Well, predominantly those that I felt with that energy, were those that had done dreadful things to children. So priests, many priests, solicitors, barristers, actually women as well, some women who were on high CEO levels had done dreadful things. So just let me just point something out. The body that we are in is a body, simply a body. It's just, I call them spacesuits. What enters into that spacesuit is what I'm talking about. Now, there are many forms of consciousness from all over this cosmos. There is not one singular God source, in my humble opinion. And what I'm sharing with you, hopefully you might think, okay, well, you know, you can't just say that there isn't just one God source and not back it up, right? Anybody can say anything. So what I share with you is through experience. I have read for many people, and I have given healing to many people, and one particular reading and healing session that I did, I write about in the book Seeing the Invisible. And I'd never felt anything quite the same in this spacesuit, this bodysuit of this man. And it almost felt, it was something that I'd never felt before. It was the strangest of feelings. When I placed my hand on the heart, it didn't give me the information like I would normally get. And it just felt so very different that my conclusion at that moment was, I'm not very good at my job today. There must be something wrong with me. But in time, I come to understand that whatever was inside that spacesuit was not of the consciousness of so many that I understand to this day. So, as extraterrestrial beings, which is what I'm talking about now, I believe they don't come from God's source. I think they come from another energy source. So, just like the understanding in this world that consciousness comes in different forms, consciousness can be trapped, consciousness can be in different frequencies. I call it worlds within worlds, whether it's a trapped world. And then there's frequencies that we don't often see, but sometimes we do, because some people call it the glitch in the matrix. I call it completely different than that. I see that something natural happens that causes the worlds to collide or to vibrate at the same frequencies. And sometimes we can see other worlds. Sometimes we can see spirits. Sometimes we can see UFOs, and they come and go, disappear, different frequencies. So when I work with clients who feel they are attached to something that doesn't belong to them, what is that? These are what we call entities, and entities come in all shapes and forms and energies, and they are real. And these, where do they come from? The so-called shadow people, the ones that hang around, where do they come from? Demonic forces, where does that energy come from? That's a consciousness. Where does that come from? It stands, in my mind, very practical, very balanced when I say if you believe that this world that we live on is the only one in this in this cosmos, and we're the only creatures like this, with this kind of consciousness within these spacesuits, if you think that this is it, then that's your thinking. My thinking is it would be crazy to think that we're the only planet that has life. Now, if you believe that, then there has to be a thought when I say to you, do you think that there's only one God consciousness in this whole cosmos? Could it possibly be that there's more than one consciousness? We call it source. Could there be different consciousness? Could there be a spirit world? Could there be demonic realms? Could there be attachment energies that come from different places? Could there be, those that we call alien, but inside the space alien suit comes a different consciousness from a different part of this cosmos? Or could it be that they vibrate into this frequency? I mean, when I think about it, it makes far more sense. Because to try and justify, and I think we all do, why somebody takes somebody's life, why another man would rape a child, I think we've been battling with this idea for years. We try and say it's a chemical imbalance. We try and say there's something wrong with them. And at the same time, we're saying that we all come from the same consciousness, God consciousness. Even just that perspective doesn't make sense. He's not like me. I'm not like him. I wouldn't touch another child. I love children. I want to look after and protect them. This one wants to rape, wants to, do ritual abuse. Sorry. No, you're not from the same consciousness as me. And I am, through my own experience, I'm saying this. When I work on somebody as a healer, that consciousness is not the same as mine. That consciousness comes from a place which is dark. That comes from a place where it does not understand my consciousness. And that's why sometimes you just don't relate to people around you. And thus, sometimes you can bump into somebody and think, oh, that's my soulmate. No, it's not your soulmate. It's just that you come from the same consciousness. And I think there's many worlds. We use the analogy spirit world, but there's many spirit worlds. And that's why it's not that simple. It's more deeper and it's more complex when we start talking about God's source energy. And I think it makes sense when I talk about this, when you can say, okay, now I can relate to this a little bit more. Because if God made him and God made me, that just doesn't add up. But if I meet people who are loving and kind and caring, and we have a bond and a connection, and we have the same understanding consciously, in this consciousness, this feeling, then it makes more sense that we came from the same consciousness. Now, I'm touching upon 1 or 2% of a whole conversation that I could keep going. But the older I get, the more I'm feeling confident to be able to share this knowledge, and which I call wisdom, through experience, not books that were written by people you don't know, by me and by my clients that I worked with, and that I worked with their energy and felt them. And that's my message today. Do with this what you will, mock, ridicule, I don't care, to be honest, but this is my truth. And I'm telling you now, I ain't going to the same place when I leave this spacesuit than those that are abusing this world, that are causing more and more satanic rituals, that are causing more and more suffering and pain and fear and rape. I am not the same consciousness of those who bow down to satanic energy and create rituals and hurt children. I am not the same as a religion that drinks the blood of Christ and eats the body. I am not. So I think there's a lot of labels, but really you can only truly understand somebody by their consciousness. And all I'm saying is that we're not all the same. And we do not come from the same place, not all of us. We come from different places. And that is my truth. I wrote a book called Seeing the Invisible. And I wrote about what I believed was an extraterrestrial that I was working on healing. I wrote about seeing an angel. It's easy to call them angels, but let's just say again, it's another consciousness. And all frequency and vibration is high or low, or dense, just dense. There's people out there in the world that have a consciousness of almost zero accountability or understanding or wanting to actual elevate, increase their energy. They are the ones that are just walking, eating, drinking and sleeping, that have no understanding, desire or intuition to be able to raise that frequency, but they just are on this planet just to be here. Again, a different consciousness completely. I think some people call them the NPCs, something like that. But there's so many different consciousness on this planet. And I think the more we grasp that, more we maybe consider it, the more we'll understand that shit happens and bad things happen and that they're not like you and I. And we can make a little bit more sense of it. Now there's a little bit more understanding to this now, rather than just blindly accepting that God made all of us and we all come from the same source. Well, I guess this is going to piss a lot of people off, but it's my truth, and I've never heard this said before by anybody. I could go on and on and on and on and talk about many different forms of consciousness that I've felt, but I think we're just breaking the ice. We're just getting in there now, and maybe there's a little bit of light there. And if people are interested in this, then let me know below. And if you are, then maybe I'll have the confidence to talk a little bit more each day, week, and maybe we could do maybe a couple of hours workshop, and we could go into real depth into it, and I'd be happy to do that. So I'm wishing you all a lovely day wherever you are in the world. I'm blessed and lucky enough to be working on a book here in Bali. I'm in Maya Abud at the moment. I'll be leaving tomorrow to another location. So I guess that's it. I'm wishing you all a lovely day. Take care, and if I've offended you, maybe it's a good thing to shake you up. Maybe it's a good thing. I don't know. Or maybe not. Maybe you just want the world to be as it is, and I kind of think we come here to evolve, not to just stick to rigid belief systems. We're meant to push ourselves. We're meant to grow. I mean, what about those who wrote those books? What about before they wrote them books? Things change. And I think we have to grasp that. Because the one thing that is constant is change. Take care, everybody. Have a lovely day.